The rain hammered against the windows of St. Mary's Hospital as Dr. Elena Marsh made her rounds through the emergency ward. It was 3:27 a.m., and the storm had brought chaos to the city. She moved between beds with practiced efficiency, her white coat stained with the night's urgency, until she reached the last gurney in the corner where a soldier lay unconscious, his uniform stripped away, his face covered in mud and blood. "No identification," Nurse Peterson said quietly, handing her the chart. "They found him collapsed near the embassy district. Looks like he's been through hell." Elena nodded, examining the man's vital signs. He was young, perhaps 30, with dark hair matted against his forehead. His breathing was shallow, and a nasty gash marked his temple. But what caught her attention were his hands, calloused, scarred, the hands of someone who had seen combat. Yet there was something else. On his left wrist, barely visible beneath layers of grime, was a tattoo of 3 interconnected circles. She'd seen that symbol before, years ago, in a classified briefing she wasn't supposed to remember. She began cleaning his wounds, working methodically while the storm raged outside. As she stitched the cut above his eye, his lips moved, forming silent words. Elena leaned closer. "Midnight protocol," he whispered, his eyes still closed. They know everything." A chill ran down her spine. The Midnight Protocol was a ghost story among intelligence circles, a rumored peace treaty between 3 rival nations that was never supposed to exist. If it did exist, its exposure could reignite conflicts that had been dormant for a decade. "Sir, can you hear me?" Elena asked gently. "What's your name?" His eyes snapped open, sharp, gray, alert despite his injuries. He grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. Don't report this. They're listening. They're always listening. I'm a doctor," she said calmly, though her heart raced. "You're safe here." "No one's safe," he rasped. "The documents. I have to get them to General Reeves. Before dawn. Before they activate the counterstrike." Elena glanced at the clock. 4:15 a.m. Dawn was less than 2 hours away. She should call security, inform the authorities. This was beyond her responsibility. But something in his eyes, desperation mixed with determination, made her hesitate. "What documents?" she asked. He tried to sit up, grimacing in pain. "In my boot, left boot. They took my jacket, my gear, but they didn't check the boots." He looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Dr. Marsh, yes, I know your name, I read your badge. In 6 hours, 3 nations will blame each other for an attack that never happened. Fabricated evidence. It's all a setup to break the treaty. Thousands will die." "That's insane," Elena whispered, but her hands were already moving to the plastic bag containing his belongings. She pulled out the muddy combat boots, and there, hidden in a hollowed compartment in the left heel, was a small waterproof pouch. Inside were photographs, satellite images, documents with official seals, communications between high-ranking officials. Even at a glance, she could see they were authentic. Her medical training had taught her to trust evidence, and this evidence was damning. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Captain James Rivera, Intelligence Corps," he said, struggling to breathe. "I was part of the security team for the treaty negotiations. I discovered the plot 3 days ago. Someone on the inside is trying to sabotage everything." He coughed, and Elena noticed blood on his lips. "Internal injuries, possibly a punctured lung." "You need surgery," she said urgently. "I need to complete my mission," he countered. "Please, I'm not asking you to fight. Just help me get to a phone. 1 call. That's all I need." Elena looked at the documents again, then at the soldier, this nameless man whose secrets could indeed start a war, or prevent one. Every instinct told her to follow protocol, to call the authorities. But protocol could be compromised. He'd said they were listening. She made a decision that surprised even herself. The staff lounge. "There's a landline there, no digital surveillance. Can you walk?" "With help," he said, managing a weak smile. Supporting his weight, Elena guided him through the quiet corridors. It was 4:42 a.m., the hospital's slowest hour. They passed only one orderly, whom Elena dismissed with a confident nod. In the lounge, she helped James into a chair and handed him the phone. He dialed with shaking fingers. "General Reeves, this is Ghost 7, verification code Sierra Delta 92. A pause. Sir, the midnight protocol has been compromised. I have evidence of a false flag operation scheduled for 0800 hours today. Another pause. Longer this time. Yes, sir. I'm secure. I'll wait for extraction. He hung up and slumped back, exhausted. 20 minutes. They'll send a team. Elena knelt beside him, checking his pulse. You're bleeding internally. You might not have 20 minutes. Then I'll make do with 15, he said, attempting humor despite the pain etched on his face. Why did you help me, Dr. Marsh? You don't know me. This could ruin your career. She considered the question, surprised by her own answer. Because I took an oath to do no harm, and letting thousands die when I could prevent it. That would cause the greatest harm of all. They sat in silence, listening to the rain. Elena prepared an emergency medical kit, knowing he'd need it for the journey ahead. As the minutes ticked by, James spoke quietly about the treaty, about the delicate balance of peace that so many had worked to achieve, about the faceless enemies who would profit from war. At 5:03 a.m., two figures in civilian clothes appeared at the lounge door. They showed Elena credentials that looked genuine enough. One of them, a woman with kind eyes, nodded at her respectfully. Thank you, Doctor. You've done more than you know. As they helped James to his feet, he turned back to Elena. The world won't know what almost happened today, but I'll know, and I'll remember. Just stop the war, Captain, Elena said softly. They disappeared into the pre-dawn darkness, and Elena returned to her rounds, her hands steady despite everything. Later that morning, the news would report nothing unusual. Just another quiet day in a world that didn't know how close it had come to chaos. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived at her hospital unmarked, containing only a newspaper clipping about 3 nations renewing their commitment to peace, and a handwritten note. The nameless soldier thanks you. The world thanks you, even if it never knows your name. J.R. Elena tucked the note into her pocket and went back to saving lives. One patient at a time, knowing that sometimes the greatest battles are fought not with weapons, but with courage, trust, and the simple choice to do what's right when no one is watching.